Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. In today's episode, I'm riding solo dolo. So, this is Coach Amanda here. And today we're going to be talking about nutrition for your fertility. So, if you're ready, I want you to listen up and lean in because I'm about to elevate your mind. All right, so I am doing this solo today. What we do is some mirror mastery solo episodes, we call them. Christina likes to come up with catchy phrases for episodes, and this is one of hers. So we'll give credit where it's due. So, what I want to talk about today is do an episode on nutrition for fertility, because what I see a lot of women do who are ready to get pregnant, or they're thinking about having a baby, wanting a baby, or maybe not even considering a baby. This is going to still apply to you. But what's happening in our culture is either one, we're saying, oh, who cares? I'm just going to have whatever I want, which if you want to live your life and you feel good about that the next day, you go for it. This podcast might not be for you. But I am also seeing clients who are trying to like prep for baby. So we're restricting food, going into like a heavily restrictive deficit. So eating less calories, we're cutting out certain food groups. So it tends to be fats and carbs, or limiting protein, or just unaware of protein and its benefits for us in muscle building. And so then we are here ready to get pregnant and we're wondering why it's taking so long, or what is going on where the egg isn't primed, right? Or maybe we're having multiple miscarriages. Now, I'm not saying, I do want to preface this, I'm not a medical doctor, at least in this field. But I sometimes miscarriages is not due to our nutrition, it's due to a genetic thing that's happening with the baby. So I do have a soft spot for that, but this more so what I'm seeing, if we have a very lean body mass and we're not taking care of ourselves nutritionally and we're exercising a lot, that's not going to be a safe environment for a child to be bred into, right? So, unfortunately, for my super lean girls, some of you might have to reduce your exercise, increase your nutrition, and gain some body fat, which is super, super scary. And I totally understand. But that's where we have to consider, what is the goal? Is the goal to have a baby, or is the goal to keep this body that you've been working on? And if the goal is to keep the body, like if you're like, hey, I want this body, and having a baby is not really important to me. If I get one, great. If I don't, fine. That's totally fine. But if you're like, no, I want a baby and I feel like I just don't know what to do, and my nutrition, like I'm scared to eat more, or I don't even know what to eat. Like I certainly don't want to have fats because fat makes you fat, or I don't want to have carbs because carbs make you bulky, or protein and blah, 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 whatever myth it is. This podcast is probably for you, or this episode. So, who am I and why do I get to talk about this with the confidence that I do? So, my name is Amanda. I am the head assistant coach for the Mindset and Matter coaching program. We have what's called the method, and this is a 4-step approach to teaching clients how to get over the niche shit that they deal with through their exercise and nutrition, and work on their mental mindset while improving their relationship with nutrition with exercise. So, what does that mean? It means if you have been in a chronic dieting cycle, if you've been yo-yo dieting, if you restart every time after you get back from vacation, you restart every Monday. Say you feel like if you don't exercise, then your body will gain fat for whatever reason, or you have to exercise to make up for the excessive amount of food that you had, or if you don't exercise on vacation, you're going to lose all your gains. That's kind of our people. So, and there are people because we were those people. So that is our usual cohort of clients. Now, granted, we have people who deal with eating disorders in there. That's usually Christina's clients. She has a background in treatment for those clients. And then mine are probably more of the emotional eating. I get a lot of pregnancy interest and postpartum clients who are working on how they feel about their body postpartum, because that too changes, which we should do an episode on that too. So why I get to talk about this is because my certifications are in pre and postnatal training and nutrition. And I have those certifications through Sarah Duvall's Core Exercise Solutions, through Girls Gone Strong. And then I have a precision nutrition certification in there, a NASM certification in there for nutrition. So, and all of those things blend together. I think anybody, as you know, can get personal training certificates. Like it's thing that you can get on the internet, great, but it's how you apply it. And so the way I apply it with clients is I'm going to take all of the information I know, but then I'm going to look at them as the individual. Now, those entering fertility period to have a baby, those in pregnancy period, which is what I'm in right now as well, and then those postpartum, there tends to kind of be the same trends of body dysmorphia, nutrition issues, and exercise habits, but not everybody's the same. What I like to do is I work with a team of providers for clients that are coming to me, or maybe who have been referred, but I'm seeing them in a virtual context. And we work at the whole patient or the whole client. So a lot of my experience or my knowledge, actually, what I've actually learned as far as like physical or emotional, is coming from the people that are referring these clients to me. So a lot of my movement and warm up comes from pelvic floor physical therapists or chiropractors who are Webster certified or naturopath physicians who are noticing some things with blood work that we need to work on. So I consider myself part of teams. And then that's how I help this client. And so when I see clients, usually it's once or twice a week if they're coming into my space to work out. Or if we're doing online, we're touching base probably 3 times a week at our highest level of coaching support. If it's just a little bit less of a level where this client has graduated, we're touch pointing, maybe once or twice per week. So a lot of my experience and knowledge comes from doing the grind of working with these types of people. So that's that. That's me in a nutshell. Sorry, I get super winded now when I talk because I have a baby in my belly. Anyway, so let's talk about nutrition and fertility. So, when we're going into wanting to have a baby, there are a couple things that I recommend clients do who are interested in this. Is first thing, you need to start tracking your cycle if you're not. If you want to make this as quick and easy, I shouldn't downsay that. If you would like to have as much knowledge at your fingertips as possible, to be able to tell when you're the most fertile instead of guessing, then we need to track our cycle. If you are noticing your periods are irregular, so for example, maybe 1 month is a 16-day window, which is very short. The other month is a 35-day window, which is a little long, but if that's normal, okay. Or in the next time it's 28. That is something that we need to see a doctor for. If your cycle is regularly about, we'll say 27 to 35 days, we're okay. And if you can track when that period's going to come, if you can predict within 3 to 5 days of when the period is coming, we're a-okay. So a couple ways that we can track is one is going to be your body temperature. Two is going to be just tracking on an app and letting it predetermine it for you through like an AI system. Or three is going to be looking at symptoms that we're having, right? I recommend that you at least track it in some way in a written form. Like Apple has a period tracker. There are apps out there. So we need something for data. Okay. So, first things first, tracking our cycle. Now, in that cycle, you have a 3 to 5 day fertility window. So that's it. You just can get pregnant for 3 to 5 days. When we have that 3 to 5 day fertility window, we need to be having sex. We don't need to be having sex all the time, but we need to be having sex. And honestly, you could have sex once during that. If you're not a high libido person and you just kind of don't like sex and you and your partner are okay with that, and you just need sex once, you could just do sex once. If you and your partner like to get your socks off all the time, you can continue doing that, but it's got to happen. But before we meet sperm and egg, our nutrition that we have, and for our partner too, these all apply to the significant other or the sperm donor or however that baby's being made. These things apply to them too, as far as your nutrition. Okay. So, with that being said, let's go into what we need to do to give us the most fertile environment nutritionally, right? This is taking out any medical conditions. If you have PCOS, endometriosis, what's some other stuff? Irregular cycles, like we talked about. If you're on certain medications that you shouldn't be getting pregnant on, obviously, I hope for the betterment of the audience, you understand that this might not be the most appropriate topic for you or the most recommended guidelines. That's something we should work with a physician on or a fertility specialist. So I just want to throw that out there. Again, this is for the average person who's doing fine. So anyway, Macronutrients is the first thing that we're going to talk about. So, what are macros? There are three macronutrients in our food systems. And by food systems, I'm meaning the food you consume. You also may hear me refer to diet when I'm talking about diet. I'm not saying like, oh, we are on a diet to lose weight. I'm saying diet as in what I consume. So when we're looking at macronutrients, there's macronutrients, micronutrients. Micronutrients are your vitamins and minerals. Your macronutrients are your three big sources of nutrition. So we got protein, carbs, or aka carbohydrates, and fats. Protein and fats are the most important. Fats will not make you fat. I'm going to let that sit for a second. Fats will not make you fat. Protein will not make you bulky. And carbs are good for energy. Okay. So we need protein and fats in our diet for sure. The rest can be made up for carbs. So I like clients to have a bare minimum of protein, bare minimum of fiber, bare minimum of fats, and then the rest can be whatever carbs you like. Take it or leave it. Now, fiber is going to come from fats and carbs, but that's a whole nother topic, anyways. So when we're looking at these three things, they need to all three be included. Okay, so let's talk about protein and why that's important for fertility. So when we're looking at protein, it supports our blood sugar balance. So again, we don't want high spikes and big lows in our blood sugar when we're trying to conceive. It helps with our hormone production. So in order to make an egg, we need hormones. In order to get hormones, we need to eat protein. So that's your estrogen, testosterone, progesterone. All right. So protein aesthetically helps with lean body mass. It helps maintain the healthy body temperature. And so when we're looking at this, we need to include protein, and you can include higher fatty sources of protein. So this is not the time to focus on your lean cuts meat. You actually kind of probably want to include more fattier cuts of meat. So if you've been a strictly chicken breast only person, this is a great time to have some chicken thighs, or at least switch it out a little bit. If you've only been having shrimp because it's very low calorie and very low fats content, maybe a great time to add some salmon in. If you only eat egg whites, let's go to some whole eggs. So those are the types of things that I want clients to have when we're in this fertility period. So there's going to be different amounts of protein that is recommended. Athletes tend to require more protein because of their muscle and tissue turnover and their higher energy needs. A bare minimum that I like to see clients at, bare minimum, no matter your body weight or size, is 100 grams. Now, if you decide, I don't even know where I'm at protein wise, you could say, okay, what I'm going to do is just track for a week. I'm not looking to change anything in my diets or my nutrition, but I'm just curious if I track for a week, what's my outcome of protein? If you notice your protein is only, we'll say 50 grams per week on average, your goal would then be to get 60 grams per week on average. Once you can start hitting that consistently, let's bump it up to 70. Now, if you're already at 100 grams, what is our body weight? So for me, my body weight ranges from 135 to 145, depending on where I'm at. We'll say it's 140. I like to get 140 grams of protein. So it's usually 1 gram of protein per 1 pound of body weight or 1 pound of lean mass. Now, if you weigh about 200 pounds, which is totally realistic, then we don't need to get 200 grams of protein. That's a lot. So then we'd go based off of your lean body mass or your ideal target weight. Okay. So sources of protein are going to come, like I said, from meat. Obviously, I named the chicken, the turkey, the fishes, beef, lamb, pork, sausage, bacon. You could even do organ meats. So I started incorporating liver into my diet prior to conception and whatnot because it has a lot of choline. It's got a lot of good vitamins. It's a cheaper cut of meats, shockingly, or well, actually, not shockingly. Once you get there, you'll realize why it's not shocking that it's cheap. And our country, I live in the United States, doesn't use it very often. So you can get it. Usually, I had to go into like a local butcher to get some, and most of the butchers that I called had it. But it's an acquired taste. You don't need a lot. And so I would often mix it in with like maybe some ground turkey or something else that I was having for breakfast where it would mask the flavor a lot more. Okay. So including protein, minimum of 100 grams and then some. The next one that's important that I want to talk about is fats. So again, your fats support hormone production. We need hormones to make an egg. They have a role in choline, which is super important for the egg as well. We're not going to go into like the nutrients and the benefits of that today. If you're really interested, I'll recommend some books and whatnot and podcasts after this that I would say would help supplement this. Hello, listeners. Coach Amanda here. For July, we are letting you know that our August cohort of the Mindset of Mommy's 8-week program is launching. So, for this program, we are going to focus on your health before and during pregnancy through education, support, and confidence. In this program, you can expect to have more confidence for pregnancy by learning the benefits of movement and having a structured program to follow. The program will be 2 to 3 days per week, along with beginner and advanced movement options. In this program, you can also expect to increase your nutrition quality with personalized coaching from yours truly. We'll gain awareness to the changes you'll experience mentally, physically, and emotionally during pregnancy, create a strong network of support by learning about a diverse range of professionals to include in your health during this time, as well as gain education on testing done throughout pregnancy. There'll also be a toolkit of resources that includes PDF documents, additional literature that I recommend, podcasts, and social media pages that support your healthiest pregnancy yet. On top of this, you'll get weekly community group calls, weekly written reviews, and our private forum to engage with other like-minded women. You can sign up for this program today for $3.99, and we will start our August cohort August 5th. So if you're interested, please visit mindsetofmommies.com to get more information and to sign up. So what's most important is fats are found in a large amount of human egg cells. What do you have that makes a baby? Eggs. So we also want fats to help make the egg, and it helps support the what's it called? The follicular fluid that surrounds them as well. Fats support a healthy pregnancy, and they also support early embryo development. See where fats don't make you fat right here? So we want to make sure that they're included. So fats can come from animal, like kind of duck fat or tallow, bacon fat, I mean, even, but more so, you're going to look at your butter, your ghee, your sour cream, your cream cheese, your avocados, your nuts, unprocessed oils. One thing that's important here is if you are having dairy, so like, for example, Greek yogurt or even milk, you want the full fat milk or the full fat Greek yogurt or the full fat yogurt for that matter. The type of fat that you have does matter. So we mostly want animal fats, not vegetable oils. Now, granted, if you go out to eat and more likely than not, they're frying whatever they're cooking in a vegetable oil, that's okay. That's not what's going to kill you over. But what we want to focus on, am I having mostly whole foods? Are my fats coming from mostly whole foods as well? Okay. So when we're cooking, using butter is great, coconut oil is great, olive oil is great, ghee is great. Those are things that we want to include in our cooking mechanism now. So for a long time, I'll take me for an example, I did not eat butter. Like I thought if I ate butter, I would die, which is ironic because when I was younger, I would eat butter out of a tub. So there's that in my life. And that's how you just justify diet culture. So it took me a very long time to get used to having butter. And it's not like all of a sudden I started eating butter again or like including it in my baked potato and whatnot. But I would start to encourage you to start shifting your diet, whether you're thinking about having a baby or you're trying to, towards these higher fat content things. So add that avocado in. In fact, add a little bit more and it's totally fine. If you want dressing, have some olive oil on the dressing, or even avocado oil, macadamia nut oil, just whatever suits you. It's important that we're including this. Okay. So, lastly, let's go to carbs. Okay. So, carbohydrates, they help support, again, blood sugar balance. This is where when you notice like that crash and then you have the donut and then you get your rise in your energy and then you get the crash, that's your blood sugar going down and up, down and up. Okay. So we want a nice, probably even blood sugar throughout the day just to help maintain our body systems. But it also, carbohydrates are going to help support our hormone balance as well, right? So, also including egg quality, also giving us, like I said, consistent energy levels, mental clarity, decreased inflammation, depending on the types of carbs, right? Okay, so obviously there's a big difference between having a russet potato or a baked potato and having a bunch of French fries. Same kind of, I don't origin, we'll say, different outcome, different processes, different reaction for your body. So, starting to think about how can I incorporate more of these natural carbohydrates. So when we're looking at sources of carbs, whole grains, we want to kind of avoid more refined stuff. Now, again, if you have the French fries or if you have the burger bun, it's okay. But if we're doing that every day, realize that not only is that going to potentially impact your hormones, which impacts your fertility, it's going to impact how you feel, right? We feel better when we have the whole natural foods. And if you don't believe me, try it for a week and then see how you feel. We want to include starchy vegetables. So your veggies, in my opinion, and your fruits have a green light for anything, as far as like any your legumes too. I'm not sure if legumes are considered a vegetable. I don't know that one. I should. Anyway, so like think of any potato you want. If you don't like the russet potato or the baked potato, great, have a sweet potato or a Yukon. If you don't like bananas, great, have an apple or berries. Spinach, mushrooms, carrots, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, broccoli. Those are all carbs. And that's why when I have clients who come on, they have a fear of carbs, which is totally reasonable given our society and the way it's been promoted that carbs are bad, or look at this whole carb option, or look at these net carb options, which is a total scam. The fear of carbs is fair. I understand you're scared to eat them. I get it. But when you think about, oh, I don't eat carbs, and I go, could you have the broccoli? And you're like, well, yeah, that's not a carb. It is a carb, sweetheart. The cookie is a carb, the broccoli is a carb. Yes, they have two different reactions within your body, but that doesn't mean blanket statement that carbs are bad. So I just want to put that out there as well. So thinking of carbs coming from almost like the ground in trees. If it came from the ground in trees, great. The other question is, oh, like I'll tell clients like if you don't like to cook veggies or have them cooked, get some frozen veggies. Okay? Frozen veggies are great. You don't really have to prepare them. You throw them in a pan, throw them in some butter. So now I got my fats and my healthy carbs, and then voila, with a protein. Okay? When we want carbs, the quantity needs to be considered, right? When we're going into fertility and even through pregnancy, the sources I use for my guidance recommend high protein, high fat, lower carb. If we're, for example, say we get to our first trimester and we're feeling like absolute ass, which, yep, that happens. If all you can stomach is carbs, that's a different story. I'm not talking to that right now. But you want to consider how many carbs am I having compared to my protein and fat. If most of my plate is made up of carbs, so let's say 75 or 3/4 of your plate is carbs, we've got to alter some of that plate ratio. Okay. So, and of course, we want mostly unprocessed rather than processed carbs. Like I said, if you want the pasta or the french fries at some point, wonderful. But if it's only pasta and only french fries every day, all day, that's a different thing that we're talking about today. Okay. So let's talk about some specific foods that we recommend that you include. Okay. So we're going to go into eggs. Eggs, I want love, love, love. Okay. They are convenient. They've got a lot of choline. They got a lot of DHA. They have a lot of folate. They got B vitamins, antioxidants. Now, they are also a fat and protein source. I want you to have the whole egg. Yep. Not egg whites, whole egg, yolk included. In fact, most of your nutrients is actually coming from the yolk itself. Okay. So, egg, great. If you can get pastured over commercial, that's even better. But again, at some point, like for me, I don't buy grass fed shit. No, I shouldn't say meat or anything unless it's on sale, and then I will. But for me, I'm just like, that is just that's the hill that I just am not going to die on. So if you can at least get the egg in, I am so happy for that. If you want to do it grass fed or you want to go to a farm and get real eggs, go for it. You do understand that your quality is going to be better, which is great. But at some point, we just need the egg. Okay. Another thing, and I touched this, liver and organ meats, inexpensive, very nutrient dense. So supports your egg quality, supports the embryo development, helps prevent birth defects. They've got a lot of fat soluble vitamins, um, selenium and zinc. You only need 3 to 6 ounces per week on average, right? This is where I talked about it's honestly not that much. It just has such a strong flavor, at least in my experience, the liver does. That's where I'm going to use it to hide it in other things. So ground turkey is a perfect example, or like ground chicken, or maybe like in a stew or something like that, where you're not going to get that bite of liver. I mean, and if you like liver, great, but it's a different taste. Another option is you want that meat on the bone or slow cooked meat, bone broth too. Okay. So again, fattier cuts of meat. So if you always get the sirloin and you like the sirloin, great. If you don't like a New York strip or a ribeye, that's totally fine. But we are missing some of those good fats on there. So this is goes into like even chicken breast, chicken thighs, like if you're gonna have it with the bone on, there's just a lot of benefit there. But again, if you don't like it, it's okay. You don't, that's not you having, let me put it this way. I'm getting into the nitty gritty. You having the chicken drumstick as opposed to the chicken breast is not going to be what is the end of your fertility journey. I promise that. But it's just if you enjoy the chicken thigh and you've been avoiding it because of dietary restriction, or like maybe you're in a cut, or you just were kind of fearful, but you actually do like it, it's okay to have it at this point. Okay. So when we're having these types of meats, it's going to improve the blood flow, support healthy connective tissue, maintain healthy blood pressure, enhances your egg and sperm quality. So going back to this is just as important for the sperm donor as well. Okay. Rich in gelatin and collagen and minerals. Again, your pasture raised and grass fed is going to be better overall in quality. But again, if commercial is what you've got, commercial is fine. Like I buy commercial. So there we go. Now your fatty fish and salmon. So going back to that, okay. So we've got iodine, copper, selenium, DHA, zinc, choline, vitamin B12, vitamin D, omega 3. DHA is essentially fat, right? And we want fat, we want choline. And those are the two big things that repeatedly come up in my studies of nutrition and fertility and pregnancy. So we want the fatty fish. And ideally, you're getting it not farm raised, you're getting it wild caught. But again, it is what it is. One thing that you do want to avoid is high mercury fish. So high mercury fish tend to be our bigger cuts of fish, so like swordfish and tuna. So think the bigger it is, probably the more mercury it is. Again, if you have some ahi pokey tuna, it's not the end of the world if you enjoy it. I love some pokey tuna. So I just want to throw that out there too. Um, it's important that we know the source, but some example of fish: salmon, herring, cod, mussels, oysters, rainbow trout, sardines, and fish eggs, if you want to go there. Next, full fat dairy. So like I talked about, we want full fat, not skim, not half and half or half, whatever fat. I forget what it's called because I don't eat dairy anymore. Anyway, so here, caveat, if you don't tolerate dairy, don't force yourself. There's plenty of other options out there to get fat. If you do have dairy and you're always getting the skim or the non-fat type, just make a little change. And that's simple. Yes, your calories are going to go up. Doesn't mean you have to adjust your calories, but this is something we want to incorporate. We've got calcium, protein, fat soluble vitamins in there. So that's your ADEK, so ADEK. You got your B vitamins, your probiotics, your iodine. It increases the luteinizing hormone levels across your cycle, which we want. Improve fertility and IVF outcomes have been shown to be are associated with full fat dairy as well. Okay. It's protective against AMH. So in AMH, if you're not familiar with that, that's how many eggs you got in your vault. And if we have a lot of eggs, chances are we're good. If we got a couple of eggs, then we probably need to talk to a fertility specialist. But that's, again, another podcast. So your kefir, yogurt, aged cheese, milk, full fat, grass fed, organic is going to be best. But again, if you don't want to go that route, or if you don't have the availability of that route, it's okay because you're just including it as much as you can. Another thing is fermented foods too. So we want good gut health, good probiotics going on. So your sauerkraut, kimchi, salsa, olives, plums, apple cider vinegar, pickles. Yuck. I love kimchi. There's this brand from Sprouts. It's called Wild Brine. It's in the red jar because they have a purple jar, and then they have a sauerkraut one. But the Korean kimchi is so good from Sprouts, and I love it with like rice and eggs. So I really recommend that. So fermented foods is going to be your milks and yogurts, cheese, sour cream as well. You can do some fermented meats if you want. Sourdough bread is a great one. So for all my bread makers out there, good job. Keep it up. Juices, kombucha, is a good one too. But for kombucha, we need to watch the sugar content. But again, if you're having it every so often, totally fine. So fermented foods are going to help with digestion. Again, your source of probiotics and your gut health and hormone health. So you have to think of your system here very basically. I eat food. It goes in my mouth. That starts the digestive process. My stomach, for better, making it very simple, takes the food that I get and it's absorbing the nutrients. The better my gut health is to absorb nutrients, the better health I'm going to have overall. If my gut health isn't absorbing nutrients, that's a problem. And it's something, maybe it's SIBO, or some bacterial or parasite or something like that. But we do need to get that resolved prior to pregnancy. If you don't and you get pregnant, great, we can still figure it out. But I'm just telling you, if you notice gut issues, so what would indicate gut issues? Good question. Constant bloating, constant gassiness. If you're not pooping every day, so you should at least have it one bowel movement per day. And say maybe it's every other day. That's fine too. Those bowel movements, if I forget what the log is, there's a diagram available that you can Google. And when you look that up, it shows you different structures of your bowel movements. You want essentially a nice log looking one. And I know we're talking TMI here, but this is actually really important. You don't want runnies and you don't want like, I'm going to push a baby out of my butthole right now. So if one of those is happening, we need to see, am I having enough fiber? Am I having enough fats? What is the quality of my nutrition here? If everything's, pretty checked off, then that requires further assistance. And so I highly, highly, highly recommend that. Okay.
I interrupt this episode to bring you our second July promo, 50% off the Mindset Method Self-Guided Coaching Program. This curriculum walks you through my mindset method to help you recreate a relationship with your body, food, and exercise. In this program, you're going to receive a weekly mindset reflection based in the method, the know, the name, the notice, and the nurture. On top of that, you're going to receive daily journal prompts to help you enhance what you're learning in that week's time. You'll also get access to our community forum, and most importantly, access to a Q&A link where you can get coaching from Coach Amanda and I in this exact podcast on everything you're learning. So if you're someone who's looking to recreate her relationship with who she sees in the mirror, how she trains herself, how she feeds herself, or wants to quiet the food noise or the toxic resilience, click our show notes below to receive 50% off using the code INTRO50. Now, back to the show.
The probiotics is not going to solve your gut health if the gut is an issue. So again, including fruits and veggies, there is no max or no minimum on this. We do like a minimum of 25 grams of fiber per day if you're tracking. I like to tell clients who don't necessarily track or they're tracking loosely, or maybe we're food journaling, why don't we just add color? What does color look like? So adding color, because that's most likely fruits and veggies. Okay. So the more color, the better. If you can do fresh in season, great. If not, that's okay too. That's kind of the benefit of living where in America is we can get Brussels sprouts year round, even though they're not in season. Okay. Now, we want 2 to 3 a day, bare minimum. Organic is going to be better to reduce your pesticide usage. But again, that's not the hill I'm going to die on. I don't buy organic fruits and veggies. Frozen is fine too, if that keeps you there. Okay. Now, let's talk about water and electrolytes and salt. So, if you have a mostly non-processed diet and mostly whole foods, we're going to want some salt. So whether that's getting salt through like an electrolyte packet, so whether that's LMNT, what's another one? Liquid IV is another one. There's a couple out there where you can add those electrolytes to your water. They're great because it changes up the taste of water, especially if you live in a hot air climate. At some point, you kind of get sick of drinking water. So we need electrolytes to help improve our energy levels. It's going to support our adrenal health, our fluid balance, helps prevent headaches and cramps. If you are having a lower electrolyte or salt intake, symptoms that you may experience are fatigue, headache, faster irregular heartbeat, poor mental focus, confusion, dry skin, muscle weakness, cramps. Intense exercising, hot weather, we probably need more salt and or electrolytes in general. Okay. Those levels that we need are going to fluctuate throughout your menstrual cycle as well. So something to consider. Foods to avoid during fertility. You don't have to, but they certainly aren't helping. Okay. Alcohol. Duh. I know it sucks. And I know your best friend out there got pregnant while she was drunk and high in Mexico with her boyfriend at the time, and the baby's fine. Totally fine. But if you're looking to do this and create the most optimal environment, you need to take out alcohol. That doesn't mean you can't ever have it, but it does mean maybe I don't have a drink every night. Maybe I have one every other night. Maybe I go down to 4 a week. Maybe I go down to 3 a week. Maybe I only have one on special occasion. If you're finding that challenging, we probably need to work on that. Not saying you're an alcoholic, but if you're like, oh, I use a drink to unwind from the day, well, let's kind of figure out other ways that we can manage stress and cope, right? That aren't alcohol, because alcohol is also going to impact your sleep as well, which impacts your hormones. Caffeine, it's that's up there, right? Now, if you're having 5 cups of coffee a day plus a couple of rock stars, that's a different issue. But honestly, it's okay to have caffeine. It's also okay to have caffeine during pregnancy as well. There is an unlikely impact to fertility on that. Okay. Refined carbohydrates. So, like we were talking about, the like pastas, your breads, your bagels, your breakfast cereal, your puff grains, your chips. Those are things that we want to reduce or avoid. Now, again, I had chips and salsa. I had rice cakes. I had rice or white rice in general. So to me, this is, eh, I want you to think of this as a place of balance, right? So if you're having mostly processed foods every day, then where can I start incorporating more whole foods? If I barely have processed foods, or maybe I have, like for me, I probably have white rice. Well, at the time of fertility, I probably had white rice 2 to 3 times a week. To me, that was okay, right? Because again, it's not going to be the white rice that breaks my fertility chances. It's going to be the accumulation effort, my stress levels, my management, tracking my cycle. Is my cycle normal for me? Those things all combined are going to get you that successful baby in your belly. Avoiding added sugars. So, added desserts, treats, sweet drinks, foods naturally high in sugar, sauces made with a lot of sugar. And we talk about that on the podcast too, is just be aware of things contain sugar. And apparently now the FDA is going to put a label on sugar, but look at the label. Does it have a lot of sugar? Yes. Do you want to enjoy it? Yes. Can you have the cake without feeling guilty? Yes. Then have the cake. Are you having a cake every night to cope with a stressful day or your lifestyle? That's a different thing. That isn't going to, that's not a fertility problem. That's an emotional management problem. Okay. So vegetable and seed oils we talked about, trans fats, I would put in there. So your fast food, your fried food. Soy is another one. A little controversial. I've seen things where saying soy does not impact your hormones, soy does impact your hormones. Really, it's if you eat soy for one of your proteins, or maybe you're mostly vegetarian, then what are you going to do? Right? It's kind of one of those things of, all right, that's where I'm going to give in. And I think for our clients who are all or nothing people, or want to do things perfect, or want that baby so bad they're willing to do anything for it, I totally understand. But at some point, we've got to live life too. We don't stop because we want a baby. If we're fertile, we need to still go out, and then we can come home and have sex, or maybe we have sex before we go out. But we don't need to stop our world until baby's in our belly, and or stop our world because now baby's in our belly. We need to keep living. So I don't want you to not go out for your friend's birthday dinner where you might get a little drunk because there's going to be alcohol and you don't want that to impact your fertility. You having fun and enjoying and living your life is going to be so much more beneficial than you staying at home and being like, well, I just want to be fertile and I'm not going to have this alcohol. Same thing with the cake. You going to your grandma's 90th birthday and having the cake is going to be much more important for your quality bonding time and your mental health than it is like that piece of cake is not going to be what changes the baby in your belly. Okay. So I do want to put that out there. Now, let's talk about a couple things I'd recommend. If you're like, man, I get it. This podcast was kind of a brief thing. I don't really know where to start, what to do. One, there is this gal. Her name is Lily Nichols. She's got, I think, 3 books now, maybe 4, but they're Real Food for Fertility, Real Food for Pregnancy, and Real Food for Gestational Diabetes. The one I recommend, if you are not pregnant right now, let's get that real food for fertility. In that book, it talks about everything that I just went over, and it has a whole other second author to it. It's a big book too, that talks about your cycle and tracking your cycle and the importance of hormones. It's wonderful. It is a great guide. If you are pregnant, or like think you're pregnant or getting into pregnancy, Real Food for Pregnancy is a great option too. Real Food for Pregnancy and Real Food Fertility have a lot of overlap, So I think either way, you're okay. But if you're looking for more of the cycle tracking, the hormonal part of it, Real Food for Fertility is going to give you a lot more information. Listening to podcasts like this one, okay? So Healthful Woman podcast. The guy's Nathan Fox. I think he's based out of New York. He's super helpful. Nicole Rankins, I want to say, I should look this up. She's great. She's a OBGYN who works in the hospital. So she's a little bit more geared towards hospital births. Then there is, let's see, ones that I like. As a Woman, that's Natalie Crawford. She's got a lot of fertility. She's an IVF specialist. Um, I would start with those three. Okay. That's going to be quite enough content for you. Expecting and Empowered is a good one too. They're two, one's a PT, yeah, a pelvic floor PT, and I think the other one's a trainer, and they're sisters, and they own their own business as well. So there's four. So I got books, podcasts, resources. Me, you can always reach out to me. You can find me on social media at fitbyamanda.az. You can go to my website, fitbyamanda.com. There's a link to my email in there. If you are interested in coaching, so here's some things too that we have options on. It's always, always, always beneficial to get a coach if it's the right fit, right? We'll caveat that. But what I mean by that is the shit you're dealing with before pregnancy. So your body image, your relationship with nutrition, your relationship with exercise, your mindset around your health, those things are going to roll over in pregnancy and roll over to postpartum. If you have a shit body image pre pregnancy, you're going to have a shit body image postpartum. Now, let's say 90% of that is true. 10% of people are going to have all of that resolved. But let's just say if you want to work on this stuff, let's do it. So there's a couple options here. I have the Mindset of Mommies program. So it's an 8-week phase program. And basically, what it is, 8 weeks of information like this today. So week 1 is just your onboarding week. Week 2, we're talking about exercise and the benefits of exercise and how to exercise through pregnancy, the myths about exercising through pregnancy. Week 3, we're talking about nutrition. So these types of information here of foods to avoid, foods to include, how much do we need to be eating? Then we talk about mindset, working on like how to prepare yourself for body changes for first, second, third trimester. That's a great one. Resources, support, people to include in your birth. So it's like a 8-week crash course on birth. It's not a pregnancy prep class. It's not a birthing class. It's just a, hey, you're a gal who's interested in health and fitness and nutrition. Here's some ways that we can dispel the myths that you fear. So, for example, what I hear is like, well, I can't work out the way I used to once I'm pregnant. It depends. Let's talk about what that looks like. So, included in the Mindset of Mommies program, there is workouts that you can do at home or in the gym, depending on what your preference is. There is nutrition coaching. There is weekly group calls as well. We've got resources in there. You'll be part of a forum where the other girls that are participating are in there too. So you can exchange your woes and your excitements and all of that. You have a weekly check in, and I'm the one overseeing those. So that's a program option. And I do that throughout the year. It's not an ongoing thing at this point. I don't know if it probably won't change right yet because I'm pregnant. And so I don't want I don't want to not be present and not give you guys the value that it's part of me being there. There is our larger program, the Mind Over Matter, which talks about like the mindset of all of the stuff that you feel about your body image, where it comes from. So that's where we go through our 4-step method of let's untangle these thoughts and feelings. And that's your personal training in there, your personal coaching, and it's essentially kind of some therapy. And we've got weekly calls with that one-on-one. You're also part of our group cohort of all of our clients that are in the programs that we offer too. There's also the self-guided programs that we have, the group cohorts that we have, lots of things out there. Okay. There's also other people out there that offer training or information about pregnancy and postpartum. Just make sure you follow somebody that is setting up realistic expectations, that you're not looking at their stuff going, oh, I could never do that. And then you're trying to do that. Right. So we want to make sure that you are feeling good about yourself going into this, making sure that everything has kind of been settled, making sure that your pregnancy goes as well as it can. One thing with mine, I am just so happy that I worked on all of my shit before. Now, not to say my stuff isn't coming up. Like I definitely look like I got a beer belly right now. But I know I have a beer belly because I'm pregnant and there's a baby in there. So, and I'm not looking at myself going, oh crap. And I'm going and buying new clothes because it's like, well, I want to like feel good in my clothes. I don't want to keep wearing the same ones and feel like, well, they don't fit anymore because they don't fit anymore. And that's okay. But let's buy some new clothes then. So that's one thing from my journey that and I'm very proud that I worked on all that crap before. So, and that's something that you'll hear me talk about in the bump dates. Those are great episodes to listen to talk about how I've prepared for this as well. So if you're interested in coaching with us, if you have questions, if you've got thoughts, if you've got concerns, if you missed some, like if I didn't explain something well, please, 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 please reach out to us. Okay. So you can find me at fitbyamanda.az on Instagram and Facebook. Our larger program is Mindset and Matter Coaching. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, but Christina is. So YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts is where you'll find these. And then if there's one thing that you need to remember, it's what you say in the mind, you see in the mirror.